Once upon a time, in a faraway land, there lived two brothers named Arteen and Arseen. They were not your ordinary brothers. They were known throughout the land for their sense of humor, their wit, and their love for mischief. They were always up to something, and their antics never failed to put a smile on the faces of everyone around them. Arteen and Arseen were inseparable. They did everything together, from playing pranks on their neighbors to exploring the woods around their village. They were always on the lookout for their next adventure, and they never failed to find it. One day, Arteen and Arseen decided to go on a camping trip deep in the woods. They packed their bags with everything they would need, including a tent, a camping stove, and plenty of food. They set off early in the morning, excited to begin their adventure. As they walked through the woods, they came across a beautiful stream. The water was crystal clear and the sound of it flowing was music to their ears. They decided to set up camp near the stream, so they could fish and swim whenever they wanted. They set up their tent and built a fire to cook their food. They roasted hot dogs on the fire and ate them with relish. After they finished eating, they decided to go fishing. They baited their hooks and cast their lines into the stream. They waited patiently for a fish to bite. After a few minutes, Arteen felt a tug on his line. He reeled in his catch, and to his surprise, he had caught a fish that was almost as big as he was. Arseen was jealous, so he cast his line back into the water, hoping to catch an even bigger fish. They fished for hours, catching fish after fish. They were having the time of their lives, but they didn't realize that they had caught more fish than they could eat. As the sun began to set, they decided to cook some of the fish for dinner. They built a fire and skewered the fish on sticks. As they cooked the fish, they noticed that the aroma was attracting some unwanted guests. A group of bears had come out of the woods, attracted by the smell of the cooking fish. Arseen was terrified, but Arteen had a plan. He grabbed a can of whipped cream from their camping supplies and sprayed it all over his face. He then ran towards the bears, pretending to be a crazy man. The bears were so surprised that they turned and ran back into the woods. Arseen was amazed by his brother's bravery, but he was also amazed by the fact that the whipped cream had stayed on his face. They laughed and laughed, and even the bears seemed to be laughing with them. As the night went on, they told stories around the campfire and sang silly songs. They were having the time of their lives, but they didn't realize that they had made a mistake by not properly securing their food. In the middle of the night, they heard a rustling outside their tent. They thought it was just a small animal, so they ignored it and went back to sleep. But the rustling continued, and soon they heard the sound of something chewing on their food. Arseen went outside to investigate, and to his horror, he saw that a family of raccoons had gotten into their food supplies. They had eaten everything, including their hot dogs, their bread, and even their candy. Arteen and Arseen were devastated. They had no food left, and they were miles away from civilization. They thought about what to do, and Arteen had an idea. He had heard that there was a wild fruit tree deep in the woods that was supposed to be delicious. The next day, Arteen and Arseen set off deep into the woods to find the wild fruit tree. They walked for hours, their stomachs growling with hunger. They were hot, tired, and thirsty, but they didn't give up. They were determined to find the fruit tree and fill their bellies. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, they saw a glimmer of light through the trees. They ran towards it and found the wild fruit tree. The tree was covered in fruit, and it looked delicious. They picked as much fruit as they could carry and ate it right there on the spot. The fruit was sweet and juicy, and it filled their stomachs with warmth. They ate until they couldn't eat anymore and then lay down under the tree to rest. As they lay there, they talked about their adventure and laughed about the bears and the raccoons. They talked about their plans for the future, and they dreamed about all the adventures they would have together. They eventually fell asleep, exhausted from their long journey. When they woke up, they realized that they had been sleeping for hours. They looked at each other and laughed. They were grateful for each other's company and for the memories they had made together. Arteen and Arseen packed up their things and made their way back to the village. They were welcomed back with open arms, and everyone was happy to hear about their adventure. They told their friends and family about the bears, the raccoons, and the wild fruit tree. From that day on, Arteen and Arseen became known as the two brothers who always had a funny story to tell. They continued to go on adventures and play pranks on their neighbors. They never lost their sense of humor or their love for mischief. Years went by, and they grew old, but they never lost their love for each other. They continued to tell stories and make people laugh, and they became legends in their village. Arteen and Arseen were never forgotten, and their legacy lived on for generations to come.